So in today's slide, I would just like to recap of what we did yesterday, and that is, as a bigger person you become, or as more responsible you come, you have to be acute to the small and minor details of everyday life. So just to go back to yesterday's slide, we talked about how the more powerful you become, the more careful you have to be, with everything, with every sort of power, be it money power, be it leadership, be it political power. All these kind of powers actually have to have uh, a counter, if you say, an ethical counter that you have to balance that power with. So the more power you have, the more ethics you should have also. So that's what I'm trying to say here. So even in gardening, as we go to the way of learning, the right way of gardening, we will realize that everything that we are doing is supposed to be in the nature's balance. If that's not the case, what will happen is we will just be fighting, and we will get tired of it. As we discussed yesterday, the millions of microbes and the bacteria and the earthworms that are there, these creatures are there to balance the system. You might say termites are bad, so why would the termites be bad? If the earth was not having termites, imagine the whole surface of the earth would be covered with trees, because that's what it was before. But termites came in, they cleared away the dead trees into soil and converted it into, basically just carbon, and chewed it up, and just left the land barrel for us to survive also. So that's the work of the termite. And when we see as a termite, we see it as an enemy, as an insect that is there to bring havoc to our trees or to bring havoc to our furniture. But the termite does not know that the furniture is not supposed to be touched. The termite, it just thinks it's dead wood, and so it comes in and it just clears away, it makes its holes and makes its houses there, and clears away you know the whole furniture. So that's very interesting to realize. So we have to know all these things when we are in touch with nature, and when we are in touch with reality of what things are. uh, Good evening, Nitaji. We'll just continue with the slides.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, yes. So today's session also, we are talking about values, and value is the expression of coexistence. Now, we talked about this yesterday, when reality as a thirst is an abstract reality, and when the reality of water, which is a physical reality, when they come together, there is coexistence that we see, right? So if that is not, one of them is not fulfilling their duty, then there is no coexistence. Like, if for a person who's living near the river, they will not care about the value of water, or somebody who's having a lot of money, they'll not care for the value of water. But for the person who is in the desert, they will know the real value of water. It quenches the thirst, right? So we have to be careful of how to assign the values, and that has to be understood by how it coexists with us, right? So that's really important. So that's why I say here, when both fulfill their utility, when the thirst is brought up, right, in the body, and when the water fulfills its utility, then we say that coexistence is happening. And then when that coexistence happens, what happens? We feel a sense of harmony, we feel a sense of gratitude, we feel a sense of, okay, this is what is true happiness, because that's where the coexistence is happening. So this is not with just water or with food or with anything like that, it happens with everything. Human beings nature is to feel happy or to be living in happiness. And where do we find it? That is a question mark. Some people might find it in money, some people might find it in other things. But specifically, when we are talking about gardening, we should know that what is the purpose of each and everything. What is the purpose of the sun? What is the purpose of the earth? What is the purpose of the water? The soil pH, the water pH, all these things have a coexistence with everything else. You spoil one thing, or you increase one thing, or you decrease one thing, it has a butterfly effect, if you might say, to the, or a cascading effect to the rest of the things. So that's very important to understand. um, we'll go to the next slide. We talked about this, where the earth was a biosphere. We need all three items there. We need the atmosphere, and we need the water, and we need the earth to survive. So that's what we are existing today. We have to take care of this. What is the situation right now? We are just having some more guests. I'll just allow them in. What is the situation right now is that, are we seeing the air right now? We need air continuously, right? I mean, every second that we breathe, we have to breathe in air, and we need the air continuously. We need the water every day. Can we survive without water for even one day? So we need the water every day. And yet, these are the very things that we are polluting. The air is being polluted, the water bodies are being polluted, and we know what we are doing with the earth's surface. So this is the situation that we are in. And so I'm reminded by the Ayn Rand's magnificent quote. She says, man's unique reward, however, is that while animals survive adjusting by themselves to their background, man survives by adjusting his background to himself. So this is a very simple way of saying that we are so intelligent that we create our environment, we create our air conditioners or refrigerators so that we can survive. And we have created that in the sense of gardening also. We have created hydroponics. What is hydroponics? It's mimicking an environment, or even greenhouses for that matter. These are mimicking environments that are not actually existing in that place, but we create a Mediterranean kind of climate or a tropical kind of climate in your locality, even in a desert. So we are mimicking something. That is the power that we have. That is the imaginative power that we have. So I'm just bringing up these points because it also touches on climate change, and I'm trying to bring in where we are falling, and we should take care of that. The air is a real necessity. We need it every second, water every day, and food every other day. These are the very three things that we are not taking care of. So it's just a small sort of reminder to us, for example, of what to do, where to get the gratitude from, where to assign the values. Are we throwing away the water? There's a thing called gray water harvesting. So that's like when you're washing away your dal, or when you're washing away your pulses or anything like that, you collect that water and you put it into the garden, because that is the best for the garden. So small things, small steps like this, recycling the water, recycling the waste material or the green waste and upscaling it and upbringing it for the manure process. And that is the thing that we need to learn. And that's what we're going to learn actually in these courses. So we are the people who can create the habitat. Let's do the right thing by knowing to do the right things also. Let's upskill ourselves. And that's what these courses are actually all about. Okay, so gardening tools, I'll just play this video in the background while we see it, how it happens. The first is the trowel. It's a small shovel, that's what we can say is, and it's used basically to pick up some sort of saplings or to dig around. And simple way of, this is how it looks basically. Then there's the rack. Now the rack is used to harvest, like for example, sweet potatoes or potatoes. You can harvest that, or you can use it to de-weed, as this person is, this chap is doing here. He's just trying to sort of make the soil, turn the soil, even make the soil spacey and airy. So that's what the rack is used for. So these are the two main tools. Then the third one is the weeder. It's a very sharp tool. In essence, it just goes to the weed and it's used to de-weed basically. And this is, there we go. We see a weed there in the pot. And that's how easily it's used. Example, this is the shears. So this is used when you are like cutting this the branches of, like when the tree is or the plant is growing too tall, you can use it to snap off the branches, as you can see. So that's where your shears are used. So these are the basic four tools that you need to be aware of, or how to use them. So I thought of just bringing them up and highlighting their usage and where and how to use it. So that's the shears. Yeah, apart from that, you have the, of course, you have the, let me just bring up the logo here. Yeah, you have the fork and the weeder and the shovel and the trowel and the gloves. I personally don't use the gloves because I think that when you are working with the soil, as much as the antioxidants that you can get from the soil, it's from the bare hands. So, when you're using the hands with the soil, it's the right way to get your antioxidant dose. So let's go on to the next slide. Types of gardens that you can make. So now we're directly jumping in on the types of ways that you can garden. So this is a very simple way of gardening. I'll just start playing the video and I'll show you as it goes on. So basically, it's a small wooden structure that you make. In this case, a 4x4, as you can see, and it's 6 to 12 inches high. So that's how high the raised beds are. Now on the side you can see some square drawing like structure there that is used as a climbers, like for the creepers, when they creep up, the bottle guard, the ridge guard or the bitter gourds, all these gourds, they can go up in the squares, and that's how they climb up. So it's just basically filling it up with compost. You can see that he has prepared a sort of structure, and now instead of using the land, we are using this soil mix and just covering it in that particular box. We're just covering those things, that area, with that compost. So now he's just using a particular mixture of all these kind of items. I particularly just use vegetable waste or leaves as they're showing right now. This is the easiest way. This is the most cheapest way. Instead of buying this compost, you can just make it at your home, and then just, fill it up. We'll just wait for it to, yeah, just fill it up like this, mix it up, make a compost soil, and then just fill the boxes up. So these boxes are not high, like it's the squares that you see are on top of the box. So it's filled up, the whole soil is filled up in the square 4 by 4, and then the small wooden sticks are piled at every 1 foot. So like every foot there is a wooden stick. So that's how it looks. You can see that there are 16 plants that you can grow in this kind of things. And each spot, like it's not the sticks are not going till the ground. Each spots can be divided further. So like you can have this fenugreek seeds or coriander seeds also growing there. You can have your tomato plants. You can have other type of items growing here, chilies growing here. This looks like a gourd, a sort of gourd that will climb up here. So this structure here, you can see it's not appearing properly here, but this wooden square structure here, you can see it on this side here, on top of here. So this structure is used for the climber to climb, and the climber will just climb up on the structure, and you'll start giving you gourds from there. So what are the benefits of this kind of structure? So it's easy to plant multiple items. That's obviously visible there. We can see a lot of things growing there. I think this is palak, spinach here growing here. So this is the beauty of it. You can grow a lot of things in one way. Now, what is it? Is space saving design, cost effective, because you don't have to have sort of a particular soil. It can be any soil that you are planting on. You just have to bring the structure, and you just start growing there. So you don't have to change the soil of a particular place. You can just prepare your soil as many garden plots that you want, square garden plots, and then you can just start gardening there. It's quick to build and it's easy to maintain, right? And it's connected to the Earth's bioelectric field. Now, this is very important. Most people, even in India, they have a tulsi plant, right? So we have a pot of, I mean, the plant is in the pot, and the pot is actually disconnected with the Earth. And so, in essence, what happens is the bioelectrical energy of the Earth is not traveling to the plant. So after the session ends today, I'll share you a link of how this earthing is needed for plants, and in fact needed to by us also. There was a survey that how we have started wearing shoes that are made of synthetic rubber or plastic materials like that, and how that is actually insulating us, and how that creates an inflammation within us, and that's how we are getting all these kind of diseases also. So I'll share that video with you guys, and how people who are in the rural land, or who are farming, or who are connected with the earth in some way or the other, their inflammation levels are very low, simply because they're connected with the earth, like they're working the farm with bare feet, so, or there's some sort of connection with the earth, the water is touching their feet or something like that. So the inflammation, the electrons or the anti bodies travel from the earth towards your body, whereas that is not happening. Like you have an excess of electrons or a negative charge that does not go back to the earth, so you're carrying those excess electrons inside you, and then you are getting sick all the time. That's a very interesting video. So another way of also gardening is we'll just look at the pictures, how great it looks. Like if this, you can see the flowers are growing together with other sorts of vegetables here. I believe this sort of salad leaves that you can use in the salad. And then there is some I believe this is beetroot. You can see that that's beetroot growing. Yeah. So this is a square 1 foot square garden. You can even look it up in YouTube how you can get more out of it. And this is how it looks after a while when everything is growing and nice. You can see some climbers are going to climb here, and they're just climbing up there. And this is just getting ready. Another bottle gourd is here. It will grow up and it will climb up there. So that's how it looks. Pretty wonderful way if you have a garden space around your house which is linked with the earth. So that's really important. For city people, there is also some good news, because we have the earth buckets. Now these earth buckets, as we said in the slide before, that we are very good at mimicking stuff. So these earth buckets are basically just mimicking the earth. So you can see here that there is some cotton wicks submerged into the water, right? And this water is held into a bucket. These are two buckets actually. You can see that there are two buckets here. One bucket is holding the water and is holding this top bucket, and in the gap which is there between the two buckets, there is some water, and this water is connected with the top bucket via cotton wicks. So now these wicks keep this moisture level in this top bucket at a decent level. So that's very good. It's like it's mimicking earth, like it's the roots are going down at the level, and then the water aquifers that are there naturally, the water level is there, the water table which is there in the earth, the what roots are getting the water from there. So this is basically a terrace. You can see the terrace floor is there, but now these trees are growing on top of that
One
terrace.
bucket sits
We can
inside of the
just see
other
how they're
bucket.
making it.
This top bucket will hold the plant and the soil. The lower bucket creates a reservoir of water beneath the plant.
Water is wicked up from the reservoir through the slits in this red plastic cup. The water is wicked up into the soil to create a constantly moist soil. How do we get the water into the reservoir? The answer is a cheap plastic pipe. This is 10 cents worth of plastic pipe that you can find anywhere in the world. It extends all the way from the top of the bucket down into the reservoir. You pour the water in here.
And to make the watering process almost automatic, we've been experimenting with a new system which uses atmospheric pressure. So far, the system has worked perfectly.
At the beginning of the growing season, you place a ring of fertilizer on top of the soil. Once you've added this ring of fertilizer, you're done fertilizing for the entire growing season. You can forget about it. This is part of a cheap plastic garbage bag. We cover the top of the bucket with it. The black plastic prevents water from evaporating. This bucket system only uses about 1/8 of the water that a traditional garden uses. The black plastic also prevents weeds from growing. If done correctly, you will never see a weed. After you cover the bucket with the black garbage bag, you tie it down. You won't remove the black plastic during the entire growing season. To plant the seeds or a small plant, you cut an X in the plastic.
So that was a really quick way of making your earth buckets. I believe that you understood it. I've also made a video myself of making the earth bucket, and I've also explained it how you can make it yourself. It's really easy and it's really quick, and it's like the best way, I would say, to grow plants where there is no soil. So if you are in an apartment or if you have a small balcony there, you can have this like a couple of earth buckets there, tomatoes there, maybe a peanut or a carrot, growing in the earth bucket, and they will actually grow very nicely. I actually grew a tulsi plant in it, and the water level here is about 6 to 7 liters of water, and as the video said, that water it's 1/8 of the water that is needed from traditional gardens. So you're saving 7/8 of water. So that's the amount of water that is, because the water is keeping on recycling. When it goes, when you pour it on top, it just goes down, and then it through the cotton wicks, it just goes down to the reservoir. So it never seeps into the soil because there is no soil there. There is the bucket that's holding the water. And when the climate is hot around you, the hot does not affect this soil because this other bucket is creating a shelter. So since plastic is made of something that is an insulator, so the inside bucket or this bucket which is holding the soil does not get hot. So even you can grow this kind of plants in a hot climate, and these earth buckets will survive there. As I mentioned, that we were actually out for at least 25 to 30 days. The tulsi was watered just once before, and when we came back, I knew that the plant would have died, because I mean, for a month, if you don't water something, it will die. But when we came back, we were astonished that the tulsi plant had actually grown bigger, and we were surprised because when we saw it, when we left it, it was small, but it was getting the water from the reservoir, and it was keeping on growing. And when we came after 30 days, we suddenly saw the difference. So that's the really personal experience that I've had this earth buckets. It's really good, and it's really a nice way of recycling the water and keeping it up in a place like a balcony there. If you don't have, like, even in an apartment, this is the best way to get your greens, and your vegetables also. So as I mentioned, auto watering for months, space saving design, quick to build and easy to maintain. I'll share the video of this, how to make them. It's really easy. In the video, they showed that they're using a cup in between, and they've cut a big hole here to show you that they're showing that they are using a cup. What this picture shows is a better design. We just have cotton wicks. So basically, the cup is filled with sort of inorganic material that does not decompose, and basically sand. And then that sand is absorbing the water and giving to the lower portion of the plant. So that is the old design. This is actually a new design where the cotton wicks are actually submerged, and a lot of water climbs up through the capillary system, and it just keeps on watering the plant as it needs, through osmosis. As the water level decreases on the top chamber, the water is absorbed from the cotton wicks up, and it's given to the root system. So this is a really nice way of growing your plants inside without any land or soil that you have available. So let's go to the next way of planting. The 3D garden, this is my personal favorite because I use this method of planting. This is actually our home, and this is about 5 feet by 10 feet. And this amount of plot size has created this kind of environment where we have ridge guards growing on one year, bottle guards growing the other year. There you can see me holding another bottle guard growing there. So a harvest that is plentiful, we need to share it. And when I say 3D gardens, that means that we are using the length, the width, and the height. You can see the flowers popping up here. So these are all pumpkin flowers. Can you imagine? The pumpkin actually crawled up and started its flowering here, and there was a one pumpkin which actually grew here, and we harvested it. I believe I have a picture of it also. No, it's in the video. I'll share with you. So basically, these are the items that you can grow. Any sort of climbing, structures. Like for example, you can say that all gourds, they are basically climbers. So all gourds, be it ridge gourd, bottle gourd, bitter gourds, ivy gourds. So these kind of things can grow in this kind of environment. And what happens is they're using the soil to get the materials that they need, and then they're using the height to get the sunlight, to fetch the sunlight to make its own food. And when you give the soil the right nutrients, you can see the soil here is so full of nutrients because we keep on using compost all the time. So it's just gathering sunlight and spreading itself. It's like spreading its wings, and just covering this whole area here. And after that, it's giving fruit on the terrace, or it's giving the fruit. You can see this is giving fruits on the balcony. So you would just ask me, how is this structure made? So basically, this is a wire structure that you can see. There's a one wire. It's covered with the branches, and then there's another wire going like that. So these wire structure have to be made first for the plant to climb on top of it. And this wire structure has a gap of 1 feet by 1 feet. So that's like the gap, and then the climber is actually able to climb in that distance. The ideal distance is actually 10 inches. So it's not exactly 12 inches like 1 feet. Just stick to 10 inches. There's a video on that also I've made. I'll share with you in the group. So the 3D gardens are the best way according to me, because your produce is not stolen. First of all, that's one more important thing, because when you leave it out in the garden like that, you are more susceptible to ways people can just take it as they wish. But this is actually climbing inside the house. So if you have a bungalow house or a bungalow structure, this is a really good way. And on top of that, you can keep the house temperature lower. So this is a great way of gardening, and also keeping the temperature of the house. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have a difference of 3 to 5 degrees. So you can assume even in the night it cools down faster because it has not gotten hot because of the leaves. The sunlight hits the leaves instead of the structure of the house. So you are having that cool effect. 2 to 5 degrees is very positive in the sense of your AC bill reduces. You have a cool effect at the end of the day. So this is really environmentally friendly design also, I would say. So let's just go over to the advantages. The plants connected with the Earth's bioelectric field. So earth buckets are not connected like that. So you'll have a produce that is actually a smaller size when you use an earth bucket. But if you use 3D gardens, you will have, because the plant is connected with the Earth's bioelectric field, you will have a produce which is getting bigger, and it's like the harvest is very bumpy. So that's what you will get, the advantage. The planting vines can climb over the balcony and give you fruits there. That reduces the ambient temperature of the houses I mentioned. And further, future garden towers can be incorporated into this type of design. Now, garden towers, I'll mention what it means actually. The garden towers are structures that are made like this. So these garden towers are another way of planting your greens. And this is very interesting because in the center here, you can see there's a cap here, and this cap is opened up, and you can use it to fill in your kitchen waste. So that's really interesting. Let's just see the video how it works.
We have designed a vertical 50-plant container gardening system that uses your kitchen scraps to create its own organic fertilizer. It can grow food right on your deck or patio and grow significantly faster than conventional gardening because it provides the plant roots steady access to nutrient-dense water. Anywhere there's sun or artificial grow lights, you can have a garden. The tower arrives fully assembled. You fill it with quality potting soil like a regular gardening container. Then place seeds or starter plants on top and in each of the 45 holes around its periphery. This means you can grow 50 plants vertically from a single tower in a very small area like your balcony, patio, sidewalk, rooftop, or greenhouse. The tower's height enables gardeners to stand up or sit, which means the towers are perfect for seniors and those with physical limitations. The user gradually fills the center tube with kitchen scraps, adding worms to accelerate the process. As the worms break down the compost, they produce vermicompost or worm castings, a very high-quality organic fertilizer and soil conditioner. The worms' digestive enzymes also distribute beneficial microbes to help create a living soil environment for healthy plant growth. The center composting tube contains 28 small holes running down its length. These allow the worms to travel back and forth through the entire structure. The continuous movement of worms through the composting tube and around the tower distributes healthy worm manure that creates channels for steady aeration throughout the soil. Through this process, the soil is renewed continuously. The gardener waters the plants in the traditional way by pouring it on top. Some of the water seeps through the 28 holes in the compost tube and filters through the vermicompost. The remaining water filters through the potting soil and eventually reaches each level of plants. As gravity carries water through the system, excess water drains out and is collected by a small container placed beneath the tower. This water contains leached nutrients from the soil and enriched compost tea from the active vermiculture, which can then be poured back on top to fertilize the plants. The tower's design also drastically reduces evaporation and ensures that the plant roots have steady access to nutrient-dense water. So here's the result. The continuous generation of nutrients, along with stable hydration, creates the ideal environment.
Okay, just getting back to it now. This grow towers, as they are called, or garden towers, these are the right way of disposing of your kitchen waste, because we have about 70 to 80% of our waste from our household is actually green waste. I mean, this is, if we just even think it logically, the paper waste or the plastic waste that we have from that's leaving our house is very, very minuscule, or very, very like less compared to what green waste that we have, the peels that we have, the kitchen food scraps that we have, the food items that are left over that we have. So all these items that are actually being eaten up by the earthworms, and then those earthworms are actually moving around in the garden tower, and then when they're moving around, they're actually defecating, and they're actually moving with the moisture, and then they're distributing the nutrients that they've just eaten, and they'll come back in the center and they'll eat your kitchen waste again, and then they'll travel up again where they want to eat the food, or they want to travel around in this whole kitchen garden tower. So this is a really a nice way of actually getting rid of your green waste and growing something. So it's like closed circle. And when I said that you can incorporate this with the 3D garden, I meant that you can combine this garden towers, right, into these 3D gardens. So you can have this garden tower here, for example, in the center, and you can put your kitchen waste there, and that kitchen waste is basically goes down, it's been eaten by the earthworms, and the earthworms also travel down when it gets hot, and then they also actually distribute the nutrients down there. So that's why I said in the last line here, the future garden towers can be incorporated with this type of design. So this design is actually just a simple garden plot where you put the compost, and then you plant vines here, or basically climbers here, and they climb up to your area, to your house. But then when you have it combined with the the garden tower, so all the nutrients can go directly from that, your kitchen scraps and all that waste can be converted to compost by the earthworms, and they travel around all these areas where the roots need the most. So this is a really green way of managing your waste. And if you consider this is actually not so, let me just go to the slide, this is not so complex to make, I mean, if you have an engineering mind, or if you have a person who can help you out with, these are basically 200-liter drums that are made from plastic, and they are just recycled. Like they are just you can just use cut some slits here and use a hot air gun and make this kind of projections by a shape of wood that is made like a shoe. So like you just use a piece of wood that is looking like a shoe, and you cut the slits here, in the plastic drums, and then you just push the shoe in, and that will make the plastic bend. After heating it, you have to use a hot air gun for that, and after heating it, just press it down, and it will create these kind of structures, and you can grow the plants. You can see that they are just made very easily. Actually, it's not so complex. You don't have to buy these garden towers. You can just make it by recycling a 200-liter drum. And then this piece of tube is just basically a drainage pipe, 6 inches drainage pipe. Even if you go to any hardware shop, you tell them you want a drain pipe, they'll ask you how long you want it. So you can just say maybe about 3 to 4 feet, and you need a cap for that. That's called an end cap. And that cap is used for the stopping the flies from entering and all that. And then you can use a hole saw to make these holes there in the center pipe, and then you can just put the kitchen waste directly inside there and then cover it up. So this is a really nice way of recycling and scaling your green waste and making it to compost, right? So let's go to the
We've
next
designed a
now. Now we are just coming to the near end of how to plant and where to get the best kind of results from. So I'll just summarize. The garden towers, those are the things that if you are not having the ground to work on, or you don't have a ground, you can see that this is completely disconnected from the ground. You can have this even on top of your terrace somewhere, or maybe in your balcony there, right? If you combine this with this, I mean, if you have a garden, a small plot of land, this is outside of our house, by the way. We just put some sort of chain here. You can see, maybe it's not clearly visible, but there is some sort of chain here. It's called the chain link wire, and that is preventing any sort of cows coming in or something like that to eat your harvest that is going to happen here. So you can combine these two, and you'll have the real good combination of both of the best of all, both of them. And of course, the earth buckets are there. These earth buckets again are there for the people who are living in apartments, or they have a small balcony, or they don't have that access to the land that is needed for gardens, right? So these are the ways of gardening. The square garden was there, of course. That was the first best way of growing the things. You have a lot of area that you can grow the plants in. You can grow a lot of things, and you don't have to worry about the way the soil is, because the pH of the soil and the water pH is really important for gardening. We'll come to that in the next session. And this is the type of I'm just bringing this kind of visions in your minds, so that you can have your own imagination. Okay, this is the kind of thing I want to do in my house, or this is the kind of thing I want to do in my house. So the viewers who are viewing this, even after the session is over, once we share the video, I would like you guys to share your plot of land, so that we can also understand where we can go with it. Like if you are living in an apartment, you can show where the terrace is and what we can do and what we can design in that. Maybe even in the terrace you can have those vines climbing up, if it's allowed. And if it's your own house, you can literally put up the hooks, and then you can drop down wires from there at every 1 feet, or as I said, ideally 10 inches, and then those wires are cross-linked again, so you have a square structure in which the vines can climb up, and you can use that kind of thing in your balcony also. So I'll show you the pictures of this also. We do this in our house. This is how the lines go up till the top of the roof. You can see that these lines are traveling up, like these are wires, galvanized wires, and those are being covered by the plant, as if a hand is traveling from the ground. It's going up. So I would suggest that the clay pots is the best way of growing the plants, because these plants are kept at a moderate temperature because of the effect of the clay. Like clay pots, we know that they're used to cool down the water. So as similarly, when you put the water in these kind of plants, the water is actually absorbed by the pot, and it keeps the pot cooler. So when you have a hot climatic condition, or if you are growing something in the summer, this is the ideal way to grow it, right? Because this is the way that it will survive in the summers. Or if you are living in a hot desert climate that we are living in right now, like Kutch is a very desert climate. It's also well known for its white desert. So most of the time, if you're using the terrace, then this is the kind of pots that you need. most videos that we see on the internet is actually of pots that are made of plastic, and these are actually videos made in the south. Most of the time, people from the south, they make the videos, and you see that they are making these gardens on the terrace that are made of plastics. So now you should understand that those areas are actually cloudy compared to the north side of India. So if your area is like at a lower temperature, or if the clouds are there more often than the sun, then this kind of plastic material can work. Although I would personally prefer the earth bucket here also, because that is also preserving the water. This has a surface runoff. Like when you put the water in here, it will obviously, there has to be some drain which is going the letting the water out. So even in plastic, if you're going for plastic, it's better to stick with earth buckets, because that is recycling the water. It doesn't let the water escape. You don't have that dirty look of draining water leaving the plant or the pot. You just have it saved inside there, and you're just watering once, maybe once a week. So that's a really nice way of summarizing it. But yes, if you are a very keen gardener, and if you don't have a good budget, then earth buckets actually cost, say, around, when I bought this last buckets, they used to cost about 60 rupees per bucket. Now they've increased to 90 rupees per bucket. So I mean, you need two buckets to make one plant, so that's like 180, right? And you, of course, you have to make your own compost and fill it up to that level. So it costs about 250 to 300 rupees per earth bucket. So I mean, compared to buying just a simple plastic container, it will be cheaper. So people, you can use this, but keep in mind that you have to use this when the temperature is not so hot. Otherwise, this plastic will actually catch on to the heat, and it will transfer the heat to the plants through the hot soil, and the plants will start suffering because of that. So it's better to have the clay pots in the hot area, and the plastics when you have when you're living in a place where there is not so much sun. So in summary, today what we have learned is humble ways of learning. Like nature, we don't have to be surprised if we know the rules. If you know that something is about to fall, or if you know that something is, if you know the rules of gravity, for example, you will able to survive. You'll not be able to fall. So similarly, if you know the rules of gardening, you're humble to it, you'll be the outcome will be expected. You will not be surprised by the outcome. So always keep on learning. That's what we need to do. And even in gardening, this is a simple practice that I also adopt, that I keep on learning. I like to learn, and that's how it's done. If you don't learn now, you will learn it the hard way. So it's better we just keep on learning every time. Think globally, act locally. If the earth is burning, we can plant a tree, share your garden produce. So what this means is that we are putting out a message by just gardening. We are showing the neighbors, we are showing our own people that around us that we can do something about it. So this is another way that you can share your produce, and then people will say, okay, this is growing in your house. How do you grow it? So that's how we started to do our produce, and slowly our whole lane, which we are growing, which we are living, the whole lane started gardening just by looking at us. So this is another way of contributing to society, or contributing towards the betterment of the earth. So act locally, think globally. So that's what we are trying to say. Three major gardening tools we covered today: the trowel, the rack, and the weeder. And of course, there are the shears also. Those are the ones that cut out the branches, the excess branches, and very easy to use, but very important also. We are needing gardening tools. Without the tools, we are nothing. We are like just handicapped. So we need those basic gardening tools. Apart from that, you don't have to go and invest in all those sort of extra items, like there's a kit which comes with 10 items or 12 items. You don't need those extra things. Those three things are the basic needs. In fact, when we started gardening, we just used the kitchen items, that's what we started with. And it actually turned out that they are more handy because you have a grip on it, compared to other tools that we are not familiar with. So you can just start by gardening just by using your kitchen tools also, and that way you can have a sort of decent way of getting connected with the earth. And then as you advance to the different things and different utilities, you can go for the tools. Square gardens are the best for vegetables and for climbers. For example, if you're having flowers also, it's very good for having in your square plots. You can have in the outskirts, you can have the flowers. In the middle, you can have some sort of veggies growing there, some okra and some bottle gourds, or some you can have some beetroots growing there. So it's really nice to have a square garden, to have different sort of items. And I'll share the link of how to build the square gardens in the group, so that you can also have a perfect grip on it, if that is your way of going towards gardening. Then we have the earth buckets, as I mentioned. This is the best way if you're living in an apartment and if you have a small balcony. It's great for tomatoes. It's great for even vines like bottle gourds and ridge gourds. They'll grow nicely in that. They are very very efficient because they are recycling the water. So that's really important that we keep on the. I mean, you can leave it for 1 month is a guarantee from my side. Nothing will happen to that plant if there is adequate water. If there's about 6 to 7 liters that is there at the bottom, you can just leave it for more than a month, because when we came there was still some water left inside the lower bucket. So that's the amount of water recycling that happens inside the earth bucket. We'll share the link of that also, the ones that I made in my home. We have curry leaves growing in the earth buckets. That's a really good thing. Yeah, curry leaves are a necessity to all Indian households. So you can have a curry leaf plant growing in an earth bucket. So 3D gardens, as I mentioned, this is a great way of harvesting your produce in your house, connecting with the earth, and at the same time, the vines are climbing and cooling your house. So you have a three-stage advantage. It's like a three-edged sword. If there is a three-edged sword, there's no such thing. But I'm just making a point that you will cool your house, you will get your harvest inside your house, and also you'll be connecting the plants to the earth by electric field. So the harvest will be that much better, and you can use and incorporate the composting material. So what we used to do is we just used to, like, let me just show you what we used to do. We just used to put our kitchen waste directly inside here. We never used to do anything else, and the earthworms would come up, eat upon that, and then go down, and then they would defecate down. So then the soil gets the plant gets the nutrients like that. So this is a really easy way of communicating with the earth's resources and giving it back. So every green waste we had, we just used to dump it inside here, and then we just let the earthworms eat, and then they'll just eat in a while, and in a week or two, all the green waste will disappear, and we'll just have soil on top. So that's a way of doing it also. So the last one is the grow towers or the garden towers. They are the miniature of the 3D garden, because that's what happens in the grow towers or the garden towers. We are giving the kitchen waste inside, and then this kitchen waste is recycled. As you can see here, this water is also seeping here, and at the same time the earthworms come and eat the green waste from here, and then they go and walk around and in this area, and then these plants, all of them, get the nutrients because of that. So this is a miniature of the 3D garden. So personally, my favorites would be this garden towers and the earth. I mean, all of them depends on what you have. We have even made earth buckets in our house, even though we have land. But these earth buckets are now in the balconies also. They are placed in strategic places where the sun comes out, and we are growing particular things inside that also. So I mean, this is all. If you are a garden fan, you would invest in everything. If you have a bigger plot of land, you would also invest in square gardens. So that's the if you have a wide place, a plot of land, you can use square gardens. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, you can just share with me. Nilpaji, if you have any sort of comments, you can share with us.
हाँ, हमें वो गार्डन है, लेकिन वो वेस्ट ऑर्गेनिक सब करते हैं, तो इसके लिए वो बकेट आपने बोला।
ये जो अर्थ बकेट है ना, उसमें एक सॉइल है, उसमें कंपोस्ट सॉइल है बेसिकली। बट आपको अगर जो वेस्ट को कन्वर्ट करना है कंपोस्ट में, तो आपके पास थोड़ी सी लैंड हो ना, उसमें थोड़ा सा ट्रेंचेस बनाने पड़ेंगे लंबे लंबे, और ट्रेंचेस बना के बाद उसके ऊपर आपका जो वेस्ट है वो उसके ऊपर पाइल करते जाना है, और उसके ऊपर डेड लीव्स या थोड़ी सी सॉइल कवर कर देनी है। फिर से आपका ग्रीन वेस्ट पाइल करना है, फिर से डेड लीव्स, फिर से पाइल करना है, फिर डेड लीव्स, और फिर उसके साथ साथ गोबर की स्लरी जो होती है, गोबर का जो होता है ताजा गोबर, उसकी स्लरी बनाते हैं, मतलब पानी के साथ मिक्स कर दे तो भी चलेगा, या जीवामृत कहते हैं उसको। जीवामृत। तो जीवामृत भी बना करके उसके ऊपर, आपके हीप के ऊपर डालते जाओगे और फिर सॉइल रखोगे, तो वो तुरंत सड़ जाएगा।
हाँ, तो वो खड्डा करना होगा ना, खड्डा करना होगा।
खड्डा कर सकते हो, या ऊपर ऊपर पाइल अप भी कर सकते हो, आप ऐसे लंबे लंबे ट्रेंचेस बना सकते हो।
कर सकते हैं, पर
आपके पास लैंड होनी चाहिए जहां पर कोई भी आपका जानवर ऐसा कुछ आकर के उसको खराब ना कर दे। ऐसे फेंस्ड होना चाहिए बेसिकली, वो एक तरह से करना चाहिए। बिकॉज ये सब चीजें हैं, आपको लगेगा कि ये कैसा है, कोई नेबर वाला बोल देगा ये डर्टी हो रहा है, ये कर रहा है, हमको भी ये सब फेस करना पड़ता था। तो ये इश्यू जो है वो हम लोगों को एक तरह सा, इसलिए मैंने जो अभी बताया ना गार्डन टावर, उसमें तो दिखता ही नहीं है। आपका जो किचन वेस्ट है वो बीच का पाइप में चला जाता है और वो कवर कर देते हो आप, ठीक है ना, और वो आप बाहर भी रख सकते हो, उसमें अर्थवर्म्स आकर के अंदर खाते रहेंगे और उसका वो जो वेस्ट करते रहेंगे और उसमें से प्लांट्स उगते रहेंगे। तो गार्डन का टावर, अगर आपके पास कोई टेक्निकल पर्सन है, आपके बच्चे हैं, उसको आप कहिए कि 200 लीटर का ड्रम आता है प्लास्टिक का, उसमें आप ऐसे ऐसे चीरे कर दीजिए, उसमें से ग्राइंडर से ऐसे आता है बेसिकली, और ग्राइंडर में से एक बार चीरा कर दिया तो एक हॉट गन आती है, वो हॉट गन से गर्म कर दिया उस एरिया को जहां पर आपने कट किया है, और वहां पर एक लकड़ी का शेप का ऐसे शेप, पैरों का जूते का साइज शू होता है ऐसा बड़ा सा बार्क, उससे आप ऐसे दबा दीजिए और थोड़ा सा नीचे कर दीजिए, तो उससे क्या होगा, उससे एक शेप आ जाएगा जहां पर आप उसमें कुछ उगा सकते हो। तो ये एक बार ट्राई करना पड़ेगा। मैंने भी खुद नहीं किया है गार्डन टावर्स, बट ये बेसिकली बेस्ट वे ऑफ ग्रीन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट। अभी मैं क्या करता हूँ, अभी मैं सब बकेट्स के अंदर भर देता हूँ, और बकेट्स के नीचे होल्स है, और फिर वो बकेट्स के अंदर से दबता जाता है, पानी निकलता रहता है नीचे से, और फिर थोड़ी देर के बाद वो उसको उठा के मैं उसको गार्डन में डाल देता हूँ, तो वो उतना स्मेल नहीं करता है,
हाँ हाँ
क्योंकि उससे पानी निकल जाता है। तो
हम्म,
आप इतना भी कर सकते हो जैसे हम कर रहे हो, तो वो कंपोस्टिंग को एक्सेलरेट कर देते हैं।
हाँ
बाकी अगर आपके पास लैंड है तो आप थोड़ा सा आज का किचन वेस्ट लिया, आपने उसने उसने ऊपर रख दिया, ऊपर डेड लीव्स लगा दी, थोड़ी सी धूल लगा दी और जीवामृत लगा दिया, तो वो एक तरह का लेयर बन गया, और उसके दूसरे दिन दूसरा लेयर, तीसरे दिन तीसरा लेयर। तो ये कितना कीन हो आप, कितना टाइम है आपके पास, कितना आपके पास नेबर्स बोलने वाले हैं या नहीं है, वो उसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है, बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स इसमें आते हैं। यू हैव टू फाइंड योर बेस्ट, यू नो।
हाँ हाँ वो मटकी में भी कर सकते हैं, मटकी में मिट्टी की, उसमें मैंने किया था,
हाँ, यस,
वो बड़ी
एग्जैक्टली।
मटकी है ना।
हाँ, एग्जैक्टली, तो वो भी कर सकते, अभी तो रेडीमेड मिल रहे हैं, कुछ 3 मटके आते हैं ऐसे, एक
हाँ
दूसरे के अंदर ऐसे रहते हैं ऊपर, और फिर उसमें से आई थिंक ऊपर डालते हैं, फिर ऊपर का रेडी हो जाता है, फिर नीचे बीच में डालते हैं, ऐसे करके टर्न करते रहते हैं उसका, ऐसा कुछ देखा
ओहो
था मैंने।
हाँ हाँ
तो वो भी एक है, 3 मटकी वाला है कंपोस्टिंग, मैंने देखा था उसको।
हाँ हाँ
वो भी हो सकता है, बट बेस्ट जो है मैंने देखा है, वो जीवामृत हो जाए तो उसमें बैक्टीरिया होते हैं ना, वो
हम्म
उसको तुरंत सड़ा देते हैं,
हाँ 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 हाँ
जो
मैं
जो मैंने अभी तक
जीवामृत
देखा।
यूज करती हूँ हाँ।
हाँ, बस बढ़िया। ओके, बढ़िया। तो हम क्या करेंगे, अभी हम शेयर करेंगे वीडियोस जो मैंने बताया वो आज के लेसन्स में, और फिर हम लोग कनेक्टेड रहेंगे। नेक्स्ट जो सेशन होगा, फॉर योर नेक्स्ट सेशन, प्लीज गिव मी अ शेप ऑफ व्हाट योर प्लॉट इज, सो दैट वी कैन आल्सो हैव अ लुक एट इट, एंड आप भी ऐसे शेयर कर सकते हैं कहाँ पर कैसा प्लॉट दिखता है, तो वी कैन डिजाइन समथिंग, वी कैन गिव एडवाइस, और मैं आपको डायरेक्टली मैसेज करूंगा उस ग्रुप में ही,
हाँ
तो आपका भी थोड़ा सा उसमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग रहेगा,
हाँ हाँ
तो वो सही रहेगा सबके लिए। तो आज की वर्कशॉप के लिए ज्वाइन करने के लिए धन्यवाद। कल हम मिलते हैं फिर से सेम टाइम, क्योंकि कल संडे भी है, तो कल भी 7 बजे मैंने रखा है, और फिर हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे इसी बातें ऊपर, कि अब हम आएंगे सूक्ष्म जीवाणु के ऊपर, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स के ऊपर, हाउ दे वर्क विद द होल सिस्टम ऑफ गार्डनिंग एंड फार्मिंग ऑल्सो। सो उसके ऊपर चर्चा होगी कल। तो तब तक के लिए कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो तो आप ग्रुप में जरूर डालिए, एंड इट वॉज नाइस कंडक्टिंग दिस वर्कशॉप विद यू गाइज। Thank you very much. We'll end the session here. Thank you.
थैंक यू।
Thank you.